The ruins of the Viral Dominion floated silently above a dying moon. For thousands of years, no ship had entered that broken system. The stars around it were cold and dark, and the remains of giant cities drifted through space like forgotten ghosts. Ancient towers were split in half. Massive warships hung frozen in orbit, covered in dust and ice. In the year 4728, the Galactic Archive team finally arrived. Their mission was simple: search the ruins, collect records, and learn how one of the greatest empires in history had vanished. Captain Lyra stood inside the main shuttle as it descended toward the moon. She looked at the shattered skyline below. "Hard to believe this place once ruled hundreds of worlds," she said quietly. Beside her, historian Dren Malik adjusted his scanner. "Empires always look eternal," he replied, "until they fall." The shuttle landed near a collapsed temple carved into the moon's surface. Ancient symbols glowed faintly along the walls, still powered after millions of years. The air inside was thin and freezing, but the structure remained standing. The team moved carefully through long stone corridors. Everywhere they looked, they found signs of panic. Doors had been sealed from the inside. Weapons were abandoned on the floor. Some walls carried deep claw marks, as if people had tried to escape at the last moment. "What happened here?" one of the younger researchers whispered. No one answered. They reached a massive circular chamber at the center of the temple. In the middle stood a black crystal pillar taller than human. Strange energy pulsed inside it. Dren's scanner beeped rapidly. "This is an archive core," he said. "It contains the Empire's final records." Captain Lyra stepped closer. "Can you open it?" "Maybe," Dren said, "but this technology is ancient. We have to be careful." He connected his device to the crystal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the chamber filled with blue light, and a holographic figure appeared above the pillar. It was a Viral elder wearing ceremonial robes. His face was tired, and his eyes carried deep fear. The team expected a long explanation about war or disaster. Instead, the elder spoke only one sentence: "If humanity still exists, do not challenge them." Then the hologram vanished. Silence filled the chamber. One of the researchers laughed nervously. "That's it? That's the final message." Dren replayed the recording. The same sentence echoed through the chamber again. Captain Lyra frowned. "Humanity? Why would an ancient empire warn us about humans? Humans are barely 2,000 years into space travel." Dren looked troubled. "That's what makes this strange." The team searched the archive for more information, but most of the data was corrupted. There were no battle records, no explanations, no names. Only the warning remained. Back aboard their ship, the team sent the discovery to the Galactic Council. At first, the Council dismissed it as superstition. Ancient civilizations often left dramatic final messages. Some warned about gods, others about monsters, others about forbidden technology. But then another archive team reported a similar discovery in the ruins of the Talnari Empire. Their message read, "Humanity survives where empires die." Days later, a third report arrived from the ruins of the Korvax Alliance. "Do not provoke the humans." Within a month, 12 different ruins had been examined across the galaxy. 12 different fallen empires. 12 different languages. 12 different time periods. And every one of them had left the same kind of warning about humanity. Panic spread to the Galactic Council. Council members argued for hours in emergency meetings. "This is impossible," one senator shouted. "These empires existed millions of years apart." Another replied, "Then why do they all mention humanity?" Humans themselves were just as confused. They had no secret ancient history, no hidden galactic empire, no mysterious power. Compared to older species, humanity was still considered young and unpredictable. But now the galaxy was looking at them with fear. Captain Lyra and her team were ordered to continue the investigation. Their next destination was the shattered capital world of the Phyrexian dynasty, one of the oldest civilizations ever recorded. The planet was a graveyard. Gigantic statues lay broken across deserts of black sand. Oceans had dried away long ago. Storms of ash covered the ruins of once great cities. Deep beneath the Capitol Palace, the team found another sealed archive chamber. Dren activated the recording. A different alien appeared this time, but the message felt hauntingly familiar. We believed humanity was weak. That was our first mistake. Captain Lyra's heartbeat quickened. What does that mean? She whispered. The recording continued. Strength is not measured by age, power, or numbers. Humanity grows stronger through every defeat. They do not break. They learn. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Dren stared at the empty air. This changes everything, he said. Captain Lyra crossed her arms. We still don't know what actually happened. Not yet, Dren replied. But we're starting to see a pattern. He brought up the translated records from all the ruins they had visited. Each empire had used different words, but the meaning was almost identical. Humanity survives. Humanity adapts. Humanity should not be challenged. Captain Lyra looked out at the endless ruins of the Threxian world. For millions of years, she said slowly, empires rose and fell across this galaxy. But somehow, they all learned the same lesson about humans. Dren nodded. And whatever they discovered, he said, it terrified them enough to leave warnings for future. As the team prepared to leave the planet, Dren's scanner detected something hidden beneath the archive floor. A second chamber. Smaller, secret, protected by stronger security than the main archive itself. Captain Lyra ordered it opened. Inside, they found a single crystal data cube, untouched by time. A label glowed across its surface in ancient text. The First Human War. The team exchanged uneasy looks. The mystery was no longer about old ruins. It was about humanity itself. The silence inside the archive chamber felt heavier than stone. Captain Lyra stared at the crystal data cube resting on the ancient pedestal. Millions of years had passed since someone placed it there, yet it looked untouched by time. Across its surface glowed 3 simple words. The First Human War. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Finally, Dren broke the silence. This may be the answer we've been searching for. Captain Lyra nodded slowly. Then let's find out why every empire feared humanity. The team carefully transported the cube back to their ship. Hours later, inside the vessel's main research room, scientists surrounded the ancient artifact. Powerful scanners examined every layer of the crystal. One researcher looked surprised. This technology doesn't match the Threxian Empire. What does that mean? Asked Lyra. It means this data cube is much older. How old? The researcher swallowed. Possibly older than the Empire itself. The room fell silent again. That should have been impossible. Nothing inside the archive should have existed before the Empire that built it. Yet the evidence was clear. Someone had hidden this recording there long before the Threxians rose to power. Dren activated the crystal. At first, nothing happened. Then a bright light filled the room. A hologram appeared. Stars stretched across the air. Entire galaxies rotated before their eyes. The recording was ancient, but the image quality was perfect. A calm voice began speaking. Galactic Historical Archive. Emergency Record Number 1. The team exchanged nervous looks. Emergency record? The voice continued. This archive contains information deemed too dangerous for public release. A date appeared. Dren nearly dropped his tablet. The recording was over 2 million years old, far older than any known civilization. Then the stars vanished. A blue world appeared. Captain Lyra instantly recognized it. Earth, but it looked different. The continents were divided into hundreds of nations. Primitive cities covered the surface. Tiny spacecraft orbited the planet. Humanity had not yet expanded into the stars. They were still trapped on their home world, whispered Dren. The narration continued. At this point in history, humanity was classified as a minor developing species. Another image appeared. A massive alien fleet. Thousands of enormous warships emerged from hyperspace. Each ship dwarfed anything humanity possessed. The vessels blocked out entire sections of space. One researcher gasped. How many ships is that? The system counted automatically. Over 70,000. Captain Lyra stared in disbelief. No civilization could survive that. The recording zoomed toward the fleet's flagship. Inside sat a towering alien wearing black armor. Golden eyes stared across a holographic battlefield. The narrator identified him. Emperor Zareth of the Zorati Dominion, the founder of one of the most powerful empires in galactic history. Dren immediately recognized the name. The Zordi ruled nearly 500 worlds. The narrator continued. The Emperor viewed humanity as insignificant. The hologram shifted again. A meeting room appeared. Human leaders from dozens of nations argued with one another. Voices rose. Accusations flew. Nobody could agree on anything. Captain Lyra almost laughed. Some things never change. The room smiled briefly. Then the smile disappeared, because another image appeared. The Zordi fleet had entered Earth's solar system. Without warning, without diplomacy, without negotiation, the invasion had begun. A giant alien vessel transmitted a message to Earth. The Emperor appeared on every screen. His voice echoed through the recording. Surrender immediately. Your species is now property of the Zorti Dominion. We will allow useful humans to live. Resistance will result in extinction. The message ended. The researchers watched closely. They expected panic, chaos, mass surrender. Instead, something strange happened. The nations of Earth stopped arguing. For the first time in their history, they stood together. Military forces united. Scientists shared research. Factories worked day and night. The entire planet transformed. Humanity had found a common enemy. Captain Lyra watched countless scenes unfold. Workers building ships. Engineers creating weapons. Citizens volunteering. Entire populations refusing to give up. The narrator spoke again. The Zorti expected immediate victory. They misunderstood humanity. The first battle appeared. Human ships launched from Earth. Compared to the alien fleet, they looked tiny, weak, hopeless. The outcome seemed obvious. The Zorti destroyed hundreds within minutes. Explosions filled space. Human losses were terrible. Several researchers looked away. The battle was a massacre, but something unusual caught Dren's attention. The human ships were gathering data. Every movement, every weapon, every weakness. They were learning. The recording jumped forward 6 months. Another battle began. This time human ships performed better. They still lost, but not as badly. The Zordi casualties increased. Another year passed. Then another. Every battle showed the same pattern. Humanity adapted. Humanity improved. Humanity learned. Their ships became faster. Their weapons became stronger. Their tactics became unpredictable. The Zordi remained powerful, but humanity kept closing the gap. Captain Lyra felt chills. They're evolving during the war. Dren nodded. That's exactly what they're doing. The recording advanced 5 years. Now the battlefield looked completely different. Human vessels no longer fled. They attacked. They fought aggressively. They surprised the enemy again and again. The Zordi commanders grew frustrated, then worried, then afraid. One final scene appeared. Inside the Emperor's throne room, Zareth looked older now, exhausted. His confidence was gone. A military officer approached him. Your Majesty, the officer said, the humans have captured 3 sectors. The Emperor remained silent. The officer continued. They are using our own technology. Another pause. They improved it. The room became very quiet. Even after millions of years, the fear on the Emperor's face remained visible. Captain Lyra stared at him. This was not the expression of a conqueror. It was the expression of someone realizing a terrible mistake. The Emperor slowly stood. He walked toward a window overlooking the stars. Then he spoke words that made everyone aboard the research ship freeze. We should never have attacked Earth. The recording suddenly ended. Darkness filled the room. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. For nearly a minute, complete silence remained. Finally, Dren whispered, "Now we know where the warnings began." Captain Lyra nodded, "But we still don't know how it ended." At that moment, the crystal cube flashed again. A second hidden file appeared, one that had remained locked until the first recording finished. A new title slowly materialized above the projector. The entire team stared at it, their hearts pounding. The title read, "The Day Humanity Invaded the Zorti Empire." And suddenly, everyone understood. The real story had not started with Earth's invasion. The real story began when humanity decided to fight back. The room aboard the research ship was completely silent. Every member of the archive team stared at the glowing title floating above the ancient crystal. The day humanity invaded the Zorti Empire. Captain Lyra felt her heartbeat quicken. 5 minutes earlier, they had been watching humanity struggle to survive. Now they were about to witness something impossible. A young civilization invading one of the greatest empires in galactic history. Dren slowly activated the next file. The hologram flickered to life. Stars appeared once again. The narrator's calm voice echoed through the room. Historical record number 2. The turning point. The image zoomed toward Earth. But this was not the same Earth they had seen before. The planet had changed. Gigantic shipyards floated in orbit. Thousands of warships surrounded the world. Massive stations stretched across space like shining cities. Humanity had transformed. The weak species of Zorti, once mocked, was gone. In its place stood something entirely different. A civilization built by war. The narrator continued. 8 years after the invasion began, humanity achieved full military unity. Industrial production increased by 400%. Research output exceeded all predictions. Captain Lyra watched endless rows of factories. Machines worked day and night. Workers never stopped. Scientists tested new technologies. Engineers built larger ships. Every defeat had taught humanity something new. Every loss had made them stronger. The recording shifted to a Zorti command center. The atmosphere inside was tense. Commanders argued loudly. Reports filled every screen. One officer stepped forward. Human fleets have attacked 3 border systems. Another officer added, they destroyed our supply stations. A third commander spoke. The humans are using weapons we have never seen before. The room erupted into confusion. The Zorti had expected humanity to defend itself. They never expected humanity to attack. The hologram moved to Emperor Zaratha's throne room. The ruler looked exhausted. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes. His empire was beginning to crack. A military advisor approached. Your Majesty, perhaps we should negotiate. The emperor immediately stood. Negotiate? His voice echoed through the chamber. With primitives? Nobody answered. The emperor pointed toward a star map. Our fleet still outnumbers theirs. Our world still outnumber theirs. Our resources still exceed theirs. We will crush them. For a moment, confidence returned to the room. Then a new report arrived. A border fortress had fallen. Then another, and another. Silence returned. The recording jumped forward 6 months. The situation had become worse. Much worse. Human fleets now appeared everywhere. Their attacks seemed random, unpredictable. One day they struck military bases. The next day they attacked supply routes. Then communication networks. Then fuel depots. Every victory hurt the Empire. Every defeat taught humanity something new. Captain Lyra noticed a pattern. They're not trying to win quickly. Dren nodded. They're exhausting the enemy. The hologram zoomed toward a battlefield. Thousands of ships exchanged fire. Explosions lit up the darkness. The Zordi fleet was larger, stronger, better armed, yet something felt wrong. Human ships moved differently. They adapted during battle, changing formations, changing tactics, changing strategies. The moment the enemy adjusted, humanity changed again. The Zorti could never predict their next move. The narrator spoke. The Zorti possess superior technology. The humans possess superior adaptability. The battle ended. The Zorti won, but barely, and their losses were enormous. Back aboard the research ship, nobody spoke. The pattern was becoming obvious. Humanity did not need to be stronger. They only needed time, because every month made them more dangerous. The recording continued. Another year passed. The Empire began losing worlds. Entire systems rebelled. Trade routes collapsed. Citizens questioned their leaders. Fear spread everywhere. Humanity was not destroying the Empire alone. The Empire was destroying itself. One mistake after another. One failure after another. Meanwhile, humanity kept advancing. The hologram suddenly showed a military briefing on Earth. Hundreds of officers filled a giant command hall. A star map dominated the room. A red line stretched directly toward the Zorti capital. Captain Lyra leaned forward. They can't be serious. But they were. Humanity was planning something unthinkable, an attack on the Imperial Heart World itself. The narrator continued, Operation Dawn. The first direct strike against the Zorti capital. The room aboard the research ship fell silent. Even Dren looked nervous. The capital was protected by the largest defense network in the galaxy. Millions of soldiers, thousands of stations, countless warships. No enemy had ever reached it. Yet humanity intended to try. The recording advanced. The invasion fleet assembled. Thousands of ships gathered above Earth. Every vessel humanity could spare. Every resource humanity could provide. The fleet looked endless. And still it was smaller than the forces protecting the capital. A human commander addressed the crews. His voice echoed through the stars. We did not start this war, but today we end it. Thousands of ships jumped into hyperspace. The image changed. The Zorti capital appeared, a beautiful world covered in shining cities. No enemy fleet had ever reached this place. Citizens believed they were safe. Then alarms began sounding across the planet. Human ships emerged from hyperspace. Thousands of them. The impossible had happened. The enemy had reached the capital. Panic spread instantly. Emergency messages flooded communication channels. Defense fleets launched. Orbital stations activated. The largest battle in recorded history began. The sky filled with fire. Entire formations disappeared in explosions. Stations shattered. Warships collided. The battle lasted for days. Then weeks. Neither side surrendered. Neither side retreated. Captain Lyra watched in awe. The scale was unbelievable. The recording finally shifted to Emperor Zareth. The ruler stood alone inside his palace. Outside his window, explosions covered the heavens. The war had reached his doorstep. A military officer entered. His face was pale. Terrified, he could barely speak. Your Majesty, the Emperor turned. The officer swallowed hard. The outer defense ring has fallen. Silence. The second defense ring has fallen. More silence. The humans are approaching the capital. For the first time, genuine fear appeared on the Emperor's face. Not anger, not frustration. Fear. The realization finally struck him. Humanity had never been fighting to survive anymore. Humanity was fighting to win. The hologram suddenly froze. Warning symbols flashed across the projection. The file had reached its end. But before it closed, one final image appeared. A massive human flagship approaching the Imperial Palace. And beneath it, a single line of text. Final record available. The fall of the Zorti Empire. Captain Lyra slowly exhaled. Nobody in the room moved, because they all knew the next recording would reveal the answer to the mystery that had haunted the galaxy for millions of years. How had humanity defeated an empire that should have been impossible to defeat? And why had every fallen civilization spent the next 2 million years warning others about humans? The research room was silent. Nobody aboard the archive ship spoke as the final Zorti file floated above the crystal projector. The fall of the Zorti Empire. Captain Lyra felt a strange tension in her chest. For thousands of years, historians had wondered how one of the greatest empires in galactic history had disappeared. Now, they were seconds away from finding out. Dren activated the recording. The stars returned. But this time, they looked different. The bright golden territories of the Zorti Dominion were shrinking. System after system had fallen. Trade routes were gone. Military bases were abandoned. Entire sectors had become dark. The narrator's voice echoed through the room. Year 12 of the Human Zorati War. The balance of power has shifted. The hologram zoomed toward the Zorti capital. The once glorious world looked exhausted. Defense platforms drifted as wreckage. Orbital stations burned. Emergency fleets filled the skies. Everywhere there were signs of desperation. The Empire was dying, and everyone knew it. Inside the Imperial Palace, Emperor Zareth sat alone. His throne room was empty. The proud ruler who once commanded 500 worlds now looked like an old man carrying the weight of an entire civilization. A commander entered. His armor was damaged. His face showed exhaustion. "Your Majesty." Zareth looked up. The commander hesitated before speaking. "The humans have captured another 30 systems." "Silence. Our fuel reserves are nearly exhausted." "Silence. Our outer fleets have retreated." The Emperor closed his eyes. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he asked a question nobody expected. "Why?" The commander seemed confused. "My Emperor?" Zareth slowly stood. "Why do they keep fighting? We destroyed their cities. We destroyed their fleets. We destroyed their colonies. Why do they keep coming?" The commander had no answer, because nobody understood. The recording shifted again. This time it showed Earth. Captain Lyra expected to see celebrations, victories, confidence. Instead, she saw something very different. Factories still worked day and night. Shipyards remained active. Citizens still volunteered. Entire populations sacrificed comfort for the war effort. Humanity was winning, yet they acted as if the war had only begun. The narrator explained why. Human leadership believed victory was never guaranteed. Therefore, preparations never stopped. Dren stared at the screen. They never became comfortable. "Exactly," Captain Lyra whispered. The recording continued. Months passed. The Zorati situation worsened. Their economy collapsed. Their military fractured. Some governors surrendered. Others fled. Many worlds declared independence. The empire was breaking apart. But the most shocking event happened shortly afterward. The hologram displayed a meeting inside the human command center. Dozens of military leaders stood around a giant star map. One officer spoke. "The Zorati fleet can no longer stop us." Another nodded. "The capital is vulnerable." A third officer added, "We can end the war." The room became quiet. Everyone expected an invasion order. Instead, the senior commander shook his head. "No." Several officers looked surprised. "No," one asked. The commander folded his arms. "We did not fight this war to become conquerors." The room fell silent. Captain Lyra exchanged a glance with Dren. Neither expected that answer. The commander continued, "We will remove the threat. We will not become the threat." The words hung in the air. Even after millions of years, their meaning remained powerful. The recording shifted again. A peace transmission was sent to the Emperor. Humanity offered terms. The war could end. The Empire could survive. Billions of lives could be saved. All Zareth had to do was accept defeat. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then the Emperor laughed. A bitter laugh. A tired laugh. A broken laugh. The ruler looked toward the stars. "Defeat," he whispered. "The humans still do not understand." The commanders looked confused. The Emperor continued, "We lost this war the day we attacked Earth." The room aboard the archive ship became silent. The Emperor wasn't speaking about battles. He wasn't speaking about technology. He wasn't speaking about numbers. He was speaking about something deeper, something far more dangerous. The recording advanced one final time. The imperial capital was surrounded. Human fleets filled space in every direction. The war was over. Everyone knew it. Yet something unexpected happened. The humans did not fire. They did not attack. They waited. The Emperor stood on a balcony overlooking his city. For hours he watched the ships above. Thousands upon thousands of vessels. An ocean of steel and light. Then he recorded a final message. The same message later discovered by countless civilizations. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "If this recording survives," he paused, "if future empires hear these words." Another pause. "Learn from our mistake." The Emperor looked directly into the camera, and for the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. Not fear of death, fear of understanding the truth too late. "We believed humanity was weak because they were young. We believed humanity was fragile because they struggled. We believed humanity could be controlled because they were divided." The Emperor slowly shook his head. "We were wrong." Outside the palace window, human ships floated silently among the stars. The Emperor continued, "Humans do not become stronger despite hardship. They become stronger because of hardship. They adapt. They endure. They learn. His voice grew softer. Every challenge makes them more dangerous. The room aboard the archive ship was completely silent now. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The Emperor spoke his final words. Words that would echo across millions of years. Words that would appear inside the ruins of fallen empires. Words that would become a warning for the entire galaxy. If humanity still exists. He paused one last time. Do not challenge them. The recording ended. Darkness filled the room. Nobody spoke for nearly a minute. Finally, Dren broke the silence. So that's it. Captain Lyra slowly nodded. That's the message. But Dren frowned. No. He looked at the other records. The other warnings. The countless fallen civilizations. Something doesn't fit. Captain Lyra turned toward him. What do you mean? Dren activated a comparison chart. Hundreds of ancient messages appeared. The Emperor's warning was only the earliest one. Many others came much later. Thousands of years later. Millions of years later. Civilizations that had never met the Zorati. Civilizations that had fallen for completely different reasons. Yet somehow they had all reached the same conclusion. Dren pointed toward the screen. The Zorati learned this lesson first. He swallowed, but they weren't the last. A chill ran through the room, because suddenly everyone understood. The warning wasn't important because one empire had discovered it. The warning was important because every empire eventually discovered it. And that meant humanity's story was far from over. At that exact moment, the crystal cube flashed again. Another hidden file appeared, older than the others. Far older. The system struggled to translate the text. Ancient symbols slowly transformed into readable words. Captain Lyra's eyes widened. The title made her blood run cold. The species that cannot be broken. And according to the timestamp, the recording was over 10 million years old. The research room felt colder than before. Nobody spoke as the ancient file floated above the crystal projector. The glowing title remained suspended in the air. The species that cannot be broken. Captain Lyra stared at the timestamp. 10 million years old. That was impossible. The oldest known civilization in galactic history had existed barely 4 million years ago. Yet somehow this recording was more than twice that age. Dren looked pale. If this date is correct, he whispered, then whoever created this file existed before every known empire. The crystal suddenly flashed. The recording activated itself. Stars appeared across the room. But these stars were unfamiliar. Entire constellations looked different. Galaxies occupied different positions. The universe itself looked younger. The narrator began speaking. This archive belongs to the Elysian Collective. The room exchanged confused looks. Nobody had ever heard that name. The narrator continued. The first galactic civilization. Captain Lyra felt chills. The first civilization. The civilization that existed before every empire. Before every alliance. Before every known species had reached the stars. The hologram zoomed across the galaxy. Thousands of worlds appeared. Magnificent cities covered entire planets. Gigantic structures floated between stars. Technology beyond imagination filled the screen. The Elysians had been powerful, far more powerful than the Zorati, far more powerful than any empire that came after. Then the image changed. A group of scientists stood around a giant observation device. The narrator continued. For millions of years, the collective studied intelligent life. Thousands of species appeared, different shapes, different sizes, different worlds. Some became advanced. Some vanished. Some destroyed themselves. Others thrived. The scientists observed them all. Captain Lyra watched carefully. The pattern seemed simple. Civilizations rose. Civilizations fell. Nothing unusual. Then the narrator spoke again. Among all observed species, one anomaly was discovered. The room became silent. A single blue planet appeared. Earth, but not the Earth from the Zorati recordings. This Earth was ancient, primitive. Humans had barely developed agriculture. Cities did not exist yet. Metal tools were rare. Humanity seemed insignificant. The narrator continued. Initial evaluations classified humans as unremarkable. Several Elysian scientists agreed. One recording showed them discussing humanity. low physical strength, limited lifespan, poor natural defenses, average intelligence. The conclusions appeared obvious. Humanity was nothing special. The researchers moved on, but centuries later they returned. Something strange had happened. Humanity had survived disasters that should have destroyed them. Ice ages, volcanoes, famine, disease, war. Again and again humanity survived. The narrator continued. Further observation became necessary. The recording accelerated through history. Thousands of years passed in moments. Empires rose. Empires collapsed. Civilizations appeared. Civilizations disappeared. Yet humans continued moving forward. Whenever a disaster struck, humanity adapted. Whenever a challenge appeared, humanity changed. Whenever a limit existed, humanity pushed beyond it. One Elysian scientist looked disturbed. Why do they keep recovering? Another scientist answered, "We do not know." The narrator continued. The anomaly intensified after industrial development. The room watched humanity advance through technology. Steam engines, electricity, computers, spaceflight. Every generation solved problems the previous generation considered impossible. Every solution created new possibilities. The Elysians became fascinated. Millions of observations followed, and the results became increasingly strange. One chart appeared. It compared intelligent species throughout history. Most civilizations followed predictable patterns. They reached a peak, then they stabilized. Eventually they declined. Humanity did not. The line representing human progress continued climbing, again and again and again, even after major setbacks, even after disasters. The line always recovered. Dren stared at the graph. They're measuring resilience. The narrator answered his unspoken thought. No observed species recover from catastrophe as efficiently as humanity. The recording shifted. Now humanity had reached space. The Elysians watched from afar. They expected human expansion to slow. It never did. New worlds appeared. New colonies formed. New technologies emerged. Challenges only accelerated progress. One scientist finally voiced what others feared. What if they never stop? The room aboard the archive ship became silent, because nobody had considered that possibility before. The narrator continued. The question became the focus of all future research. Decades passed, then centuries, then thousands of years. The Elysians gathered more data. Their conclusions grew increasingly alarming. Humanity treated obstacles differently than every other species. Most civilizations avoided hardship. Humans confronted it. Most civilizations feared uncertainty. Humans explored it. Most civilizations sought stability. Humans sought possibility. Every difference strengthened them. The recording showed dozens of examples. A colony trapped on a frozen world. Humans adapted. A settlement isolated from supplies. Humans adapted. A fleet stranded beyond known space. Humans adapted. Again and again and again. Captain Lyra finally understood. The warnings were never about military power. They were never about ships, or weapons, or technology. They were about something much deeper, something impossible to measure, the ability to endure. The narrator continued. The collective reached a final conclusion. The room became completely silent. A document appeared. Ancient, simple, only one sentence. The official Elysian assessment of humanity. Captain Lyra read it slowly. The species demonstrates unlimited adaptive potential. Nobody spoke. The meaning was terrifying, because if the assessment was true, humanity had no final form, no maximum strength, no ultimate limit. Every challenge simply created a stronger version. The recording shifted one final time. An elderly Elysian researcher appeared. His face showed exhaustion. He looked directly into the camera. We searched for humanity's greatest weakness. We never found it. The old scientist paused, then continued. We searched for the point where they would finally surrender. We never found that either. Another pause. The more pressure applied, the stronger they became. The room felt frozen. The researcher lowered his head. When our civilization eventually falls, his voice grew softer. Future civilizations must understand what we learned. The image flickered. The scientist looked directly forward. Do not fear humanity because of what they are. The room listened carefully. Fear humanity because of what they might become. The recording ended. Darkness returned. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence lasted nearly a full minute. Finally, Captain Lyra whispered, "So every empire discovered the same thing." Dren slowly nodded. They all reached the same conclusion. Before anyone could continue, the crystal suddenly flashed red. Alarms appeared across the projection. Warning symbols filled the room. The system had unlocked one final hidden archive, older than everything else. The translation program struggled to process it. Ancient symbols slowly transformed into words. Captain Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. The title appeared, and for the first time since beginning the investigation, she felt genuine fear, because the file was not about the past. It was about the future. The glowing title read, "The Day Humanity Saved the Galaxy," and according to the timestamp, the event had not happened yet. The warning symbols continued flashing across the research room. Red light reflected from every wall. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The final archive hovered above the crystal projector. Its title glowed like a star in the darkness. "The Day Humanity Saved the Galaxy." Captain Lyra could not take her eyes off it. "It says this event hasn't happened yet," she whispered. Dren stared at the timestamp. His hands trembled slightly. "That's impossible." The date displayed on the archive was nearly 200 years in the future, yet the recording itself was over 10 million years old. A future prediction, made by a civilization that had vanished long before modern history began. The room remained silent. Finally, Captain Lyra nodded. "Open it." The crystal responded immediately. The hologram exploded into life. But this time there were no planets, no fleets, no empires, only darkness, endless darkness. The narrator's voice returned. For the first time, fear could be heard within it. "This archive contains the final Elysian prediction. Probability of occurrence, 98%. Captain Lyra felt her stomach tighten. The hologram zoomed outward. Stars appeared. Entire galaxies filled the room. Then something strange happened. One by one, stars began disappearing. Not exploding. Not dying naturally. Simply vanishing. The darkness spread. System after system vanished from existence. Entire regions of space went black. One researcher gasped. "What is that?" The narrator answered. "We designated the phenomenon as the silence." The darkness continued expanding. Nothing could stop it. Nothing could slow it. Every civilization that encountered it disappeared. Planets, stars, moons, everything, gone. The room aboard the archive ship was completely silent. The narrator continued. "For millions of years we searched for a solution. We found none." The hologram shifted. The mighty Elysian civilization appeared. The first civilization. The greatest civilization. The civilization that had once ruled thousands of worlds. Even they failed. The darkness consumed them. Their fleets vanished. Their technology vanished. Their cities vanished. Nothing remained. Captain Lyra felt chills. If the Elysians could not stop it, who could? The narrator answered. No known civilization possesses the ability to survive the silence. The room became quiet. Then another image appeared. Humanity. Captain Lyra frowned. "Why are they showing humans?" The narrator continued. "One exception exists." Every person aboard the ship leaned forward. The hologram displayed thousands of simulations, different futures, different timelines, different possibilities. In every scenario, civilizations fought the silence. In every scenario, civilizations lost. Again, and again, and again. But then something changed. A new simulation appeared. Humanity existed. The outcome changed instantly. The darkness still arrived. The threat remained unstoppable. Yet, humanity survived longer than expected. Much longer. The simulation continued. Human scientists studied the phenomenon. Human explorers entered dangerous regions. Human engineers developed new technologies. Every failure taught them something. Every setback revealed new information. The narrator spoke. The species adapted. The words echoed through the room. Captain Lyra slowly sat down. She already knew where this was going. Humanity wasn't winning because they were stronger. They were winning because they kept learning. The simulations accelerated. Years passed, then decades, then centuries. The darkness advanced. Humanity adapted. The darkness evolved. Humanity adapted again. The cycle repeated endlessly. The narrator continued. After analyzing 12 billion future possibilities, only one recurring outcome was identified. The room fell silent. A single image appeared. Human fleets. Thousands of species fighting beside them. Entire civilizations united. Not under human rule. Not under human control. Standing together. For the first time in galactic history, the narrator continued. Humanity becomes the center of galactic resistance. The image grew larger. Captain Lyra watched countless alien species working together. Species that had once been enemies. Species that had once feared one another. Species that had once fought devastating wars. Now they stood united, because humanity had done something nobody else could. They had given the galaxy hope. The narrator continued. The strength of humanity is not their technology. The strength of humanity is not their military. The strength of humanity is not their numbers. The room listened carefully. The strength of humanity is their refusal to surrender. The hologram shifted once more. The final battle appeared. A battlefield larger than entire star systems. The silence consumed worlds. Yet humanity continued advancing. Every species followed. Every fleet followed. Every civilization followed. Captain Lyra realized something important. The fallen empires had misunderstood the warning. The warning had never been about avoiding humans. It had never been about fearing humans. The message carried a deeper meaning. The narrator finally revealed it. Humanity represents the survival instinct of the galaxy itself. The room fell silent. The words felt almost impossible to understand. Then the narrator explained. When others surrender, humanity continues. When others fear, humanity advances. When others fall, humanity rises. The hologram displayed the final simulation. Human scientists discovered a weakness within the silence. Human engineers built a solution. Human fleets delivered it. The darkness began retreating. For the first time in millions of years, the impossible happened. The silence stopped. The galaxy survived. Captain Lyra felt tears forming in her eyes. Not from sadness, from realization. Every fallen empire, every ancient warning, every forgotten message, they had all been pieces of the same truth. The narrator spoke one final time. This concludes the Elysian prediction. A pause followed. Then came the final message. The message intended for future civilizations. The message hidden for 10 million years. The message that explained everything. If humanity still exists. The room became perfectly silent. The narrator continued. Stand beside them. Do not stand against them. Because one day, the stars brightened across the hologram. They will carry the future of the galaxy. The recording ended. Darkness returned. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. For several minutes the room remained silent. Finally Dren looked toward Captain Lyra. The warnings weren't warnings at all. Captain Lyra slowly nodded. No, she smiled. They were instructions. Months later, the Galactic Council received a complete archive. The messages spread across known space. Civilizations studied them. Historians debated them. Scientists analyzed them. But one sentence became famous throughout the galaxy. A sentence repeated in schools, on starships, in government halls, and on distant colonies. A sentence first spoken by a dead emperor millions of years ago. If humanity still exists. But now the ending was different. The galaxy had finally learned the full message. If humanity still exists, stand beside them. And among the stars, humanity continued doing what it had always done, moving forward, learning, adapting, and preparing for whatever came next.